Debriefing is not what it sounds like. You are just telling participants what happened and thanking them for their time. So basically you want to share the research question and you want to include the design of the study. So because you're doing an experimental study or a quasi-experiment, you want to make sure that they know what happened in other conditions. So if they were only in one condition, you'd want to share what happened in the other condition. Excuse me. You should also reveal if you deceived anyone. So you might have not shared the original purpose of the study, and you could just tell them that we didn't want to share the purpose of the study beforehand in case that could influence the results. But you just apologize for any deception that there might be, and then correct any misconceptions. So if you gave them false information, you want to make sure you tell them that it's false. You also want to take this time to provide some additional benefits to research participants. So it could be that you give them a link to mental health services if you asked about depression. This example, this is from the textbook. So it talks about an example of if you asked about attitudes towards domestic abuse, you could provide pamphlets about domestic abuse. And this can be in online format, of course. So for Qualtrics, excuse me, for Qualtrics, you would want to make sure to include it in a text format. You could include links to resources. You could even make a video thanking your participants and explaining what you did. So you have a lot of flexibility, but you want to make sure that you include this debriefing statement. You also want to include your contact information and my contact information. So I'm going to show you some examples. Okay, so I'm back in my example survey, and you can see here that we have some debrief examples. So the first one, thank you for taking the time to participate in the present study. In this study, we're trying to determine if there's a relationship between prior experiences with deaf culture and attitudes and opinions towards deaf people. So here they're doing that first part, they're saying thank you for participating, and then they're telling them what the study is about. They also have their hypothesis here. We expect to find that those with less experience with deaf culture will have less positive opinions about people who are deaf or hard of hearing. All participants answered the same questions about their exposure to deaf culture and their opinions about those who are deaf or hard of hearing. So this part here, you have your hypothesis, what they expected to find, and then they have what they did. So very simple statement about what participants did in the study. This is a correlational study, so this is a little bit different than your experimental, but this still has a good, I think it has a good example here of resources. And then once again, this study is anonymous and confidential. So you want to reinforce that you don't have their name, their contact information, and then you're also not sharing the data with anyone. So that's what that confidential refers to. Here is that additional benefit. So I really like, even though this isn't a real study, it's not IRB approved, I really like providing resources for people. So I think it's a really good opportunity where, you know, whatever the topic is, there's probably something you could share with them that they might find interesting. So here, this group said, if you're interested in learning more about deaf culture or American Sign Language, there are many options open to you. And so there's questions about first reach out to your instructor and ask for any information that you may wish to learn. This was specific, this was actually given to a class about deaf and hard of hearing culture. So this was a little bit different where there was a teacher to reach out to. So you probably don't have anything like that. It also gives a class that you can enroll in. And then it also gave a website for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services Center. And then finally, you end with, if you have any questions, you can reach us at, and you should include your names and your emails. You can also contact me, the instructor, and then my email address. So that is one example. This example, this one here says, thank you for participating in this research study. In this study, we're trying to see if there's a relationship between political parties of the jurors and defendants and how it affects criminal sentencing. So participants in this study, they went through, and it was a within subject study design. And so they participated in all of the conditions, but they still went ahead and just gave them an overview of what they had them do. So what we asked participants to do. Our hypothesis in the study, so they included what they expected to find. And then it also says we did not make the research question obvious in this study so that we could get your honest responses. We apologize for any deception, but felt it was necessary to the study. So a lot of you don't really have deception. You just weren't very clear about the research. For this one, they used a little bit more deception. They tried to hide what the purpose was. And so that's why that statement is there. And then again, you have the comment that responses will be kept anonymous and confidential. If you have any questions, please ask for names. Please ask and then include your names and emails again. And then of course, me as well. So these are two examples of debriefs. You are really going to choose what works best for your study, and you're going to make that decision. Excuse me. You're going to make that decision and write it out, and then I will give you feedback on that. We'll continue to work on this in lecture next week so that you have this ready for your Qualtrics survey. But this is that last piece of your survey.